Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're going deep on a topic a lot of you requested: manipulation techniques.
Oh, yeah, it should be a fun one.
You guys sent over a document simply titled Untitled 3.pdf.
Catchy. Right.
Right. And it seems to be a guide to, well,
All sorts of fascinating tactics.
yeah, and I gotta say, one of the first things that really grabbed my attention was the sheer volume of disclaimers right at the beginning.
Like, whoa, 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 slow down.
Yeah, it was almost like a,
Like they knew
"Ooh,
how
how powerful.
how this stuff is.
Yeah,
Be
exactly.
careful with this.
Yeah, it's like almost a warning, right?
Yeah.
Handle with care, proceed with caution.
Which honestly just made me even more curious.
Oh, absolutely. Like, what is in here that we need to be so careful about, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing that really stood out was the guide's use of, get this, a fictional character as like a model almost.
Oh, like a case study.
Yeah. Johann Liebert from the Anime Monster. Anyone familiar?
Oh, yeah, Monster's great.
So good. But it's so interesting how they use this anime character to illustrate these, like, sometimes really complex psychological concepts.
It's actually a really clever way to make it all more engaging.
Yeah, totally. Because this could be, let's be honest, pretty dry material.
Very textbooky.
Right. But with this, like, anime character angle, it suddenly becomes a lot more approachable.
Memorable.
Absolutely. So before we jump into specific techniques, the guide starts by, kind of defining what manipulation actually is and how it's different from or similar to persuasion.
Yeah, they make this point that ultimately the outcome, whether it's persuasion or manipulation, depends on the user's intent.
Right, like what are you actually trying to achieve here?
Yeah, that's a dividing line.
And that's such a crucial point because our goal here is to understand manipulation so we can defend against it, not to become master manipulators ourselves.
Yeah, we're not giving you the tools to go out and like control people.
Exactly. So let's get into some of these tactics, shall we? The first one that jumped out at me was mirroring and matching.
Oh, this one's a classic.
It sounds so sneaky, right?
It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Like, subtly mimicking someone's body language, their tone of voice, all to build rapport.
It's about creating that subconscious connection, that sense of we're on the same wavelength.
So it's not necessarily about like straight up copying someone's every move.
No, it's much more subtle than that.
More about finding that like sweet spot between being too obvious and not doing it at all.
Exactly. You don't want to be a caricature, but you also don't want to be a robot.
So like if you're in a negotiation and you kind of subtly mirror the other person's posture or you match their tone of voice, they might feel more, I don't know, at ease.
More receptive to what you're saying.
Without even realizing why.
Exactly. It's all happening below the surface.
So should we start practicing right now? Mirroring each other in the recording booth?
Uh-huh. Maybe not.
Okay, maybe later. But the guide then goes on to persuasive language. And this is where things get really interesting, especially for our listeners who are, in marketing and advertising and all that.
Because this is where we see it every day.
Oh, yeah. The guide breaks down how language can be used to influence our decisions. It talks about emotional appeals, logic, storytelling even.
And how to craft those really effective calls to action.
Yeah. So, like, have you ever noticed how those limited time offers always seem to get you?
Oh, all the time.
It creates that sense of urgency, right?
Absolutely. Like you have to act now before it's gone.
Yeah, totally. Which reminds me, this episode is brought to you by, just kidding.
I was going to say.
But seriously, it's amazing how much psychology goes into all this.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. The next technique, and this one seems pretty straightforward, is reciprocity. It's all about that give and take, right?
Yeah, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Exactly. But the guide actually breaks it down into 3 different types. You have generalized reciprocity, where you do something nice without expecting anything specific in return.
Like helping a friend move.
Exactly. Then there's balanced reciprocity, which is more like a direct exchange of favors.
You do this for me, I'll do that for you.
Right. And then there's negative reciprocity, where someone's trying to like exploit the whole principle.
To get more than they give.
Yeah, and that's where things can get a little shady.
Definitely. And what I think is really interesting about all this is that even those seemingly harmless acts of kindness They can sometimes be driven by this desire for reciprocity.
Even if it's subconscious.
Right. We might not even realize we're doing it.
It really makes you think about, like, why do we do the things we do? Are we ever truly altruistic? Or is there always some element of self-interest involved?
That's a big question.
That's a whole other deep dive, maybe.
Maybe for another time.
But yeah, mirroring, persuasive language, reciprocity. We've covered 3 pretty powerful techniques already.
And this is just the beginning.
There's a whole arsenal of these tactics, each one more fascinating than the last.
Just keep going.
I'm ready. What's next?
Well, there's this one called Foot in the Door. And it's all about how getting someone to agree to a small request.
Makes them more likely to agree to a bigger one later on.
Exactly.
Like those salespeople who stop you on the street and are like, do you have a minute for a quick survey?
That's the foot in the door.
Wow, I've totally fallen for that before.
We all have.
It's like once you've agreed to that initial small thing, you feel like you've already committed, so why not go all the way?
They get you talking, get you nodding along,
Yeah.
and then bam, the pitch.
So sneaky. Okay, I need to hear more about this one.
Okay, well, let's dive in and see how this foot in the door technique actually works.
Let's do it.
So, foot in the door, it really plays on this human desire to be consistent, right? Like we want to appear reliable, agreeable.
Makes sense.
So think about it. You're walking down the street and someone stops you for a quick survey.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. And they're not trying to sell you anything, at least not yet.
Yeah, just a few harmless questions, right?
Exactly. But they're getting you talking, maybe agreeing with a few points.
Getting you to commit.
Exactly. And then, bam, they hit you with a sales pitch.
And because you've already agreed to this small thing, the survey, you're more likely to say yes to the bigger thing, the purchase.
It's subtle, but it's powerful.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly simple techniques can be so effective.
Oh, yeah. They're all based on psychology.
And speaking of psychology, the next technique, anchoring, this one's all about setting a reference point, right?
Exactly. Like you're trying to influence someone's perception of value.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Imagine you're negotiating a salary for a new job.
Okay, I'm listening.
If you start by throwing out a higher number, even if it's not your absolute ideal, you're setting the anchor.
So you're kind of framing the whole negotiation around that figure.
Exactly. And it makes it more likely that the final offer will be closer to your desired range.
That's brilliant. I'm definitely going to try that next time I'm negotiating.
It's all about being strategic.
So even just mentioning a number, even if it's not the final offer, can actually influence the outcome.
Absolutely. And this ties into another powerful technique, scarcity.
Hmm.
This one plays on our fear of missing out.
Oh, this is huge in marketing.
Oh, absolutely. Limited time offers, exclusive deals. It's all about creating that sense of urgency.
Get it now before it's gone.
Exactly. And it works because we're wired to avoid loss. We don't want to miss out on something valuable.
Makes sense. But it's not just about products, right?
No, scarcity can be used in all sorts of contexts. A job opening with a tight deadline. A romantic relationship where one person plays hard to get.
Oh, I've seen that one before.
It's all about creating that perception of limited availability, which makes the thing seem more desirable.
Wow, this is really getting me thinking.
It's like a whole new way of looking at the world.
Okay, so we've got foot in the door, anchoring, scarcity, all pretty sneaky.
And we're just getting warmed up.
Okay, bring on the next one. What else you got?
Okay, this one is called door in the face.
Door in the face? What's that?
This one is kind of counterintuitive because it uses refusal to its advantage.
Wait, what? How does saying no actually help?
It's like this. You start by making a completely outrageous request.
Something you know they're going to say no to.
Exactly. And then you follow up with a more reasonable request, something you actually want.
So it's like a bait and switch.
Kind of. Because they've already rejected the first request, the second one seems like a compromise.
Oh, I see. So they're more likely to say yes because they feel like they're doing you a favor.
Exactly. It's like they're relieved they don't have to do that first crazy thing.
Okay, let me get this straight. You're saying if I want someone to agree to something, I should first ask for something totally ridiculous.
Well, in theory, yes.
Like if I wanted to borrow $20, I should first ask for $100.
You could try it. See what happens.
Maybe I will. But seriously, this guide is blowing my mind. It's like I'm seeing all these everyday interactions in a whole new light.
And that's the point, to make you more aware of how these subtle tactics work.
And not just to protect ourselves, but also to recognize when others might be trying to manipulate us.
Right. Because this stuff is everywhere.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What other manipulative techniques are lurking out there?
Well, let's talk about gaslighting. This one is a bit more insidious. It involves undermining someone's sense of reality.
Whoa, that sounds intense.
It can be very damaging. The manipulator might deny events that actually happened, contradict the victim's memories, make them question their own sanity.
So it's about making the other person doubt themselves.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly difficult to break free from, especially if you're in a close relationship with a manipulator.
That sounds really scary. How can someone even defend against something like that?
It's crucial to trust your instincts and rely on external validation. Talk to trusted friends and family members, document the interactions, seek professional help if needed.
So if you feel like you're being gaslighted, don't keep it to yourself.
Right, reach out for support.
Mm,
It's important to remember that you're not alone, and you don't have to go through this alone.
that's good advice. It's terrifying to think about how some people might use these techniques to harm others.
Yeah, it's not all fun and games.
It's about power and control.
Exactly. And another technique that often gets used in that way is love bombing. It can seem really positive at first, but it's often used to gain control in a relationship.
I've heard of that. Isn't that where someone showers you with like excessive affection and attention?
Exactly. It can feel incredibly flattering, especially early on.
Yeah, like who wouldn't want that?
But it's often a tactic to create a sense of dependence and obligation.
So once they have your trust, then the manipulation starts.
It can happen that way.
Hmm.
The manipulator might shower the person with gifts, compliments, constant attention, but then use that power to control them.
That's so messed up. It's like they're using love as a weapon.
In a way, yes. And it's important to remember that manipulation can happen in any type of relationship, not just romantic ones.
It's really making me think about all the ways we can be influenced, both consciously and unconsciously.
And that's the point of this deep dive, to make you more aware of these dynamics so you can navigate them more effectively.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much ground already, mirroring, persuasive language, gaslighting, love bombing, and I'm sure there's more.
Oh yeah, we still got a few more techniques to explore.
All right, hit me with them. What else is in this manipulator's toolbox?
Well, there's playing the victim and playing the servant. These techniques involve manipulating others by evoking sympathy or guilt.
Those sound interesting. Let's dig into those. All right, so playing the victim and playing the servant. Let's unpack this a bit.
Sure, so with playing the victim, the manipulator is all about getting sympathy.
Oh, I know the type.
Right. They might exaggerate their misfortunes.
Yeah, make themselves seem helpless.
Exactly. Blame others for their problems, constantly seek reassurance.
It's all about avoiding responsibility.
Exactly. And shifting that responsibility onto others,
So manipulative. But it works, right? People want to help.
especially those who are naturally compassionate.
Yeah, they see someone struggling and they just want to jump in and fix it.
It's a very human instinct.
Totally. Okay, what about playing the servant? That almost sounds like a good thing.
Right. Like they're being helpful.
Yeah, selfless.
But with this technique, it's about creating that sense of obligation, like you owe them something.
Oh, I see.
So they might go out of their way to do favors for you.
To an excessive degree.
Yeah. Making it really hard to say no to their requests later on.
It's like they're strategically building up goodwill to cash in later.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's disguised as kindness, but it's still manipulation.
Wow. This deep dive is really changing how I see the world.
It's all about awareness. Once you know these tactics, you start to see them everywhere.
And speaking of awareness, the guide also touches on something called self-manipulation, which blew my mind.
Oh yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Self-manipulation? How is that even a thing?
Think about it. We all have that inner critic.
Yeah, that voice that tells us we're not good enough.
Exactly. And that's a form of self-manipulation. We're holding ourselves back with negative self-talk, setting unrealistic expectations.
convincing ourselves that things are okay when they're really not.
It's like we're sabotaging ourselves.
And the crazy thing is, we're often not even aware we're doing it.
Right. It's all happening beneath the surface.
So, understanding manipulation is not just about protecting ourselves from others, but also about understanding our own minds.
Absolutely. It's about becoming aware of those internal patterns and challenging those negative thoughts.
It's like we have this inner manipulator that we need to learn how to manage.
Exactly. Once you recognize it, you can start to break free.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. We've covered so much mirroring, persuasive language, gaslighting, love bombing, even self-manipulation. My head is spinning.
It's a lot to take in.
But it's also valuable. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to understand human behavior.
And that's the goal, to empower you with knowledge.
Speaking of which, I couldn't help but notice at the end of the guide, there's this sales pitch
Oh,
for another book.
classic.
It's like they're using the very techniques they've just outlined to try and sell us something.
They're putting it all into practice.
A little meta, don't you think?
Definitely. It's like they're giving us a bonus lesson in real world application.
You gotta respect the hustle, I guess.
Right. It's a
Yeah.
reminder that these tactics are everywhere.
Well, I've definitely learned a lot from this deep dive. I feel much more equipped to navigate the complexities of human interaction now.
That's great to hear.
Thanks for guiding us through this fascinating world of manipulation.
Of course. It's been a pleasure.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into manipulation techniques.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit empowering.
Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding how manipulation works is the first step to protecting yourself and others from its harmful effects.
Stay curious, stay informed, and keep questioning the world around you.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.
See you all on our next deep dive.